We're in Torah Zayin, the second part, Bet, Ot Bet. Rabbi Nachman says here, so up until now, just quickly to recap, Rabbi Nachman said that we have these different bechinot, these different aspects that are all equal to each other. He gave us an equation, and he said that emuna, faith, and miracles, and prayer, nisim, and tefillah, and Eretz Yisrael, all of these equal each other. They're all the same aspect. And so the more that you increase one, the more you will find an increase in the others. The more that you increase the quality in one, the more you find the quality increased in the others. So the more that you increase your faith and your emunah, the more you will increase the quality of your prayer, the more you will increase the ability to see miracles and to experience miracles, and the more you will experience the holiness of Eretz Yisrael. Connect to the holiness of Eretz Yisrael. Okay? And then basically, he also, another point that he gave us, a practical point that we can apply, is how he said, he brought this Gemara that says, En ben David ba'at shetichle pruta min hakis, that Mashiach will not come until the last coin is lost from the pocket. There's no more coins left in the pocket. And Rabbi Nachman explained that to mean that Mashiach will not be revealed until the people that conceal miracles with nature will end, meaning that there will no longer be a concealment of the miracles with nature. When the concealment of miracles through nature will end, or the people that do that, and they explain all of the miracles with explanations of, oh, that's natural, this is cause and effect, and because of this, and because of science, and because of whatever, when that ends, and when there's a tremendous increase of emunah in the world, that's when Mashiach will come, because Rabbi Nachman points out, the whole point of this Torah is to show us how Mashiach, which is the Geula, the complete general Geula, the global Geula, and also a personal Geula, every person, a personal redemption from whatever exile that they are experiencing, that is all dependent on our emunah, our level of emunah, and that's connected to Eretz Yisrael, right? Eretz Yisrael is the place of redemption, and so when there is a removal of that concealment from the miracles that are constantly happening, and there's an increase of the emunah, that's when we merit the revelation of the redemption, the revelation of the Eretz Yisrael. Okay, so now that we have established this, that it all comes down to the emunah is what brings about the miracles, it brings about the redemption, then we have to understand also now how to merit emunah. How do we build emunah? Where does emunah come from? And this part of the Torah, what he's going to speak about now is how do we develop this emunah. אבל אי אפשר לבוא לאמונה אלא על ידי אמת, כמובן בזוהר, והיה צדק אזור מותנה ואמונה אזור חלציו. היינו צדק, היינו אמונה, ואמרו שם, אמונה את קריית, קל להתחבר באמת. Says Rabbi Nachman that a person is not able to merit emuna unless he has the prerequisite, unless he has emet, which is truth. So emuna is only possible once there is a background of emet, of truth. And he brings a proof from a pasuk, from what the Zohar says on this pasuk in Yeshaya. The pasuk says that justice will be a belt for his, the justice, hayat tzedek ezo motnav, a belt around his waist. The justice will be a belt around his waist, and the faith will be ve'emunah ezo chalatzav, and the faith will be a band or a belt around for his loins. So the Zohar says about that tzedek is emunah. Tzedek is the same aspect as emunah. Justice is malchut. Tzedek is malchut, and malchut is emunah. So it's tzedek and emunah is the same thing. So that's what this pasuk is speaking about. It's about the malchut. But so then if tzedek and emunah is the same thing, so then what's the difference between tzedek and emunah? Why does the pasuk first tell us about justice, tzedek being the belt for his hips, and then it says that emunah will be the belt or the band for his loins? What's the difference between tzedek and emunah if both of them are malchut? So the Zohar says that emunah is when emet, which is the tiferet, is unified with the malchut. When emet, which is the tiferet, is unified with emunah, so then the emunah comes to its state of rectification. It comes to its state of perfection. And so also the Zohar also continues to say over there that tzedek is emunah is the malchut when it's separated from the emet. And when it's unified with the emet, so then it comes to its place of perfection, and the tzedek becomes tzedakah. It becomes the hay is added to tzedek, and it becomes tzedakah. And that's also the state of the malchut in its perfection when it's called emunah. When it's called emunah, it's also the state of the malchut when it's unified with the tiferet, which is representing emet. Emet is the tiferet, and emunah is the malchut when the malchut is unified with the emet. So what we learn from here is that emunah is only possible because emunah represents the malchut when the malchut is unified with the tiferet. So emunah is only possible as much as the malchut is unified with the tiferet. What's the tiferet? Emet. So in order to merit emunah, you must be unified, connected to the emet behind it. That's the background. Okay, continues Rabbi Nachman and says, so now how do you merit emet? How can you be connected to the truth so that even when you're in a place of concealment and experiences in darkness, you're able to strengthen yourself with emunah? Says Rabbi Nachman, you can only merit the emet, the truth, through connection to the tzaddikim, through an attachment to the tzaddikim and following their advice. ועל ידי שמקבל מהם עצתם נחקק בו אמת, כמו שכתוב ואין אמת חפצת, כשאתה חפץ אמת בטוחות ובסתום חוכמה תודיעני, כי העצות שמקבל מהם הוא בחינת נישואין וזיווג. So when a person follows the advice, specifically, that's the aspect here in the attachment to the tzaddikim, to a point where you follow their advice. Because when you follow their advice, you're really connected to them. Okay, so what is that? Why does Rabbi Nachman point out this aspect of following the advice of the tzaddikim? So he brings a pasuk that says that when you want truth, and truth is what you desire, right? Hen emet chafatzta. So then, batuchot uvsatum chokhma todi'eni. So what does that mean? In the inner parts, in the innermost places, teach me wisdom. So that's referring to a connection, like an intimate connection. So when you seek truth, when you truly desire truth, and when you have chosen truth truthfully, so then you merit wisdom to be passed on to you through an intimate connection, an intimate spiritual connection. Okay, so what does Rabbi Nachman teach us from here? He says, from here we learn that the advice that you receive, that chachma that you receive from the tzaddikim, is an aspect of an intimate connection. Okay? וכשמקבלים עצות מרשעים ובחינת נישואין בקליפה, הנחש הישיעני, לשון נישואין, עצות הנחש שקיבלה הוא בחינת נישואין, ועל ידי נישואין הטיל בה זוהמה, ובמעמד הר סיני פסקה זוהמתן, כי שם קיבלו תרי"ג עתים לקדושה והייתה להם נישואין בקדושה. ולמה נקרא עצה מבחינת נישואין? כי הכליות יועצות, וכליות הם כלי ההולדה, כלי הזרע, נמצא שכשמקבלים עצה מאדם, כאילו מקבלים ממנו זרע, והכל לפי אדם אם רשע או צדיק. So Rabbi Nachman says now very, very, very important point. Okay, he says like this. He says we know from the Zohar that the zera, the seed that through which a child is born, through which a child is conceived, it's drawn The source of it is from the brain, from the chokhmah. And then that's drawn, as the Zohar says, through the spine, through the shidra, through the spine, the 18 vertebrae of the spine. That's why the Yesod is called, has the number 18 connected to it. And then what happens to it is there's a process where the wording, the way that the Torah defines it, the way the Torah describes it, is that kind of like cooking of the seed, meaning the seed being brought to its complete state of readiness. Okay, just like food is not edible unless it's properly cooked, so the seed needs to go through a certain process until it's able to bore a child, for a child to be born from that. Where does that happen? What is the part in the person's body where the seed is processed? So that's called the klayot. The klayot are the intestines. Okay, and that's why. And so the klayot, these intestines. What's interesting, once somebody told me, a doctor in acupuncture in Chinese medicine told me that they also believe that the seed of a person, that the intestines of a person are in charge of that, of processing the seed of a person, and so that's connected to it. Okay, so the klayot yoatzot, and the klayot are, the Gemara says about these intestines that what they do is they give eitzah, they give advice to a person. So a person's advice is connected, the advice that a person is able to take the wisdom that he knows and turn it into practical advice. Where does that come from? That's connected to the klayot. That's connected to the intestines. And so the Gemara says that the intestines, the klayot, are yoatzot. I'm sorry, not the intestines, the kidneys. I got mixed up with intestines and kidneys. The klayot are kidneys.
Okay.
And so the kidneys is where the advice comes from, the practical advice, the ability to take. And this is exactly what is happening with the seed. The seed is drawn from the chokhmah, from the wisdom of the person, from the highest places. But in order for it to be processed in a way that it can give birth to a child, so something that is transcendent, something that is not physical, is being turned into physical, it's being turned into something practical, so that a physical child could be born. That is done in the kidneys. That's what we said, right? The kidneys is what takes the seed and processes it to be able to have a child from that. So in the same way, the wisdom of a person that is transcendent, that is beyond, that is that's not really practical, in order for you to take that and to turn it into a practical advice and to see how you can use your wisdom practically and live according to it, that is connected to the kidneys of the person. That's connected to the klayot. And so says Rabbi Nachman, that's why the Gemara says that the kidneys is where advice is connected to. In order to connect to this advice, the advice is from the kidneys. So now that we know this, that we know that the seed is processed in the kidneys, and we know that advice comes from the kidneys. So now Rabbi Nachman says that when you receive advice from a rasha, from someone that's in the side of the klipa, someone that's in the side of the tuma, so it's as if you're receiving seed from that person. When somebody gives you advice and you accept the advice of that person, if you're accepting the advice from a tzaddik, so it's as if you're having an intimate connection with the tzaddik, and you're receiving the seed of the tzaddik, because the tzaddik has taken his wisdom, his chachma, and he has processed it into practical advice, and you've received it. That's exactly what a woman does. The wife of a person, she receives this seed that comes from the chachma of the man, and it's processed, and then she takes it and she applies it practically. She builds with it a physical being, a child. So in the same way, when you take advice from a tzaddik and you accept the advice and you live according to that advice, you are having a intimate connection with that tzaddik. Okay, so that's what connection to the tzaddik is receiving, not just listening to the advice, it's actually living according to the advice of the tzaddik. Just like a woman takes the seed and builds with it something physical, you are taking the advice of the tzaddik that is sourced in his wisdom, and you're building with it something physical. You're living according
manifesting.
You're manifesting it, yeah. Physically, yes. And so, if a person does this on the side of Tuma, from someone that's a Rasha, from someone that's from the side of the Klippa, so it's like having an intimate connection with the Tuma, with the side of the Tuma. And so Rabbi Nachman points out that this was what happened by the sin of Adam and Chava, by the first sin. What happened over there was the Gemara and the Zohar and the Medrash all explain that the Nachash, the primordial serpent, the first snake, the Nachash HaKadmoni, the Satan, the Yetzer Hara, what he did at that point, when he gave the advice to Chava, and he told Chava to transgress Hashem's commandment, at that point, the Medrash describes that he actually raped Chava, and actually put this venom within her, but in a way that a man is with a woman. In this way, he injected this venom within Chava. Okay, but the place that the Midrashim bring this from, where do they connect it from? They learn it from the pasuk in Bereshit that says that Chava says Hanachash hishiani va'ochal, that the serpent persuaded me and I ate. And Rabbi Nachman says that this word hishiani, that he persuaded me, he gave me the advice, he told me to do this, and I accepted his advice. I followed what he asked, what he was persuading me to do. The word in the pasuk that he persuaded me sounds very much like the word for marriage. The word hishiani sounds very much like nisuin, marriage. Because when you receive advice, if it's from a tzaddik, it's like you are connected intimately with the tzaddik. If you receive it from the Rasha, which is what happened by the sin of the first sin, the sin of the Eitz Hadat with Adam and Chava and the serpent. So what happened at that point, it says Chava was as if she was raped by the serpent. We're not saying that she was actually raped by the serpent, but by her receiving the advice of the Yetzer Hara, of the Satan, she was having an intimate relationship with this serpent, and she received that venom. And that's the venom that was injected into mankind that causes death, that causes all the troubles that we have, all the way to the time of Kabbalah Torah. When we receive the Torah, the Gemara says in Masechet Shabbat that the venom that was injected in humankind, in us, at that point was removed. When we received the Torah, that venom was removed. And that's why everyone was healed at that time when we received the Torah. And that's why if we would not have sinned with the Egel, which was the idol worship of the golden calf, then we would have had the complete redemption at that point, and we would have lived forever, right? Just like in Olam Haba, because the venom of that first sin was removed. Says Rabbi Nachman, why, of all times throughout history, why was that the time that the venom of that serpent was removed? So Rabbi Nachman explains that when we received the Torah, we were receiving the zera, the seed, the holy seed. We were receiving the seed. We were having an intimate relationship with Hashem, and we were receiving Hashem's infinite wisdom that has been processed and brought down level after level until it has been processed into 613 practical ways of living that infinite wisdom of Hashem. And those are the 613 mitzvot. And we see this because the Zohar calls the 613 mitzvot 613 advice. Tariag atin deoraita. 613 counsels of holiness. Okay? That's what the Zohar calls the mitzvot, because that's what they are. Each one of the mitzvot are a way to live practically. We are connecting practically, manifesting Hashem's infinite wisdom through each one of these 613 mitzvot. So when we receive the Torah and we had this intimate relationship with Hashem and connected and received the seed, right, the process, the advice of Hashem, the practically and physically manifested infinite wisdom of Hashem, that removed its negative counterpart. It removed the venom, which was the advice of the serpent. It was the seed of the serpent. Okay, so that was removed at that point. So now what we see from all of this is that when a person receives advice from a tzaddik, and receiving advice is not just hearing it or listening to it, it's actually accepting it and starting to live according to it, practically applying it, implementing that advice, then that is a real connection with a tzaddik. It's not just, oh, I'm connected, you can associate me with him. It's like a connection of a husband and wife. You are an extension of the tzaddik, just like a woman is the extension of her husband, and she continues the job of the husband in the world. She builds a household for that husband, a household on his name. So too, when you are fulfilling the advice, practically fulfilling and living according to the advice of the tzaddik, that is the greatest connection that you can have. And that's the connection, that's what it means to be connected to Emet. And so let me just read the next 3 lines and we'll stop there. It says, Rabbi Nachman, ובשביל זה התורה מתיש כוח ונקראת תושייה, כי הם תרי"ג עתין, כמו שכתוב לי עצה ותושייה, ועצות הם במקום נישואין, בחינת זיווג המתיש כוח. He says, now that we know that when a person learns Torah, the Torah itself is the manifested infinite wisdom of Hashem, but manifested practically, right? We're able to take this infinite wisdom, just transcendent wisdom of the divine, and we're able to study it, and we're able to bring it into our mind, able to understand it, and we're able to start living according to that. And we said that that's an aspect of the intimate relationship, or receiving the seed, okay? And so that's why he says the Torah is called Tushiyah. Tushiyah means the insight. It gives us insight. But the Gemara makes a drasha on this word, Tushiyah. That what does it mean that the Torah is Tushiyah? It gives us insight. Tushiyah sounds like the word mateshet. Mateshet means that it weakens, it saps a person's strength. It weakens a person. When a person learns Torah, after the learning of the Torah, a person is sapped. His energy is sapped. Okay? Why is that? Rabbi Nachman explains that because the Torah is this intimate connection with the divine, so when a person has an intimate connection physically, a person also uses all of his strength. A person's strength is sapped. That's one of the characteristics of when a person is intimate with a person's wife. A person's energy is sapped because a person has all of this energy that is going into creating, and so that energy is sapped. The person experiences a weakening of the strength. And so in the same way, when a person learns Torah, a person's energy kind of feels, after learning a certain amount of Torah, a person feels this tushiyah. A person feels this the energy being weakened, and that's because all of this energy is going, you're taking this tremendous energy and you're putting it into creating something practically, into living according to that and manifesting that wisdom. And so that's why all of this energy is being used, and a person can feel this tushiyah, this weakening. The person's strength is kind of like sapped because of that. And so this is going back to what we said, that the Eitzah, that the Torah is the Eitzah, it's the practical advice, which is an aspect of the seed, which is processed in the kidneys, where is the source for all of advice that we have. Okay, so I think it's a good place to stop for today.
Shkoyach.
Baruch tiyeh.